Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to day 6, 21 days of presence. Well, here we are just moving deeper into this portal, into the solstice, into the total solar eclipse that is happening the day after Christmas. And we are feeling it. It's interesting. It's like such a strange feeling time. Now, part of this is that today, yesterday, we're starting to feel the sun come into a square with Neptune. Neptune has just turned direct, so it's got this big energy of like a wave. Now, Neptune and Pisces rule collective consciousness, the bigger part of our spiritual truths, and that connection to the one consciousness. So that Neptune turning direct is like a wave of energy moving through our collective consciousness. And because of all of the intense stuff that's been going on with our Mercury retrograde, still in shadow for just a few more days, right? So it'll be interesting to see on the 8th, Mercury comes out of its retrograde shadow. And then on the 9th, it goes ahead and moves right into Sagittarius. And so the light is shining down on what Mercury found in that deep dive in Scorpio. And so things are just bubbling up to the surface, and there's an impending feeling going on here. I think it has to do with moving into this Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 2020 and all of the astrology in December that leads us there, kind of being like, it's like an anticipation energy. And yet it's so mysterious. So now that we're feeling the sun in square to Neptune just after it turned direct, and we've talked about how Neptune is going to move into the second part of Pisces, representing a completion of, an opportunity to leave behind the old stories of the past around the Piscean age and religious persecution. So the Pisces energies has this direct connection. It's like a spiritual energy in your life, a direct connection to source, but it's also our delusions, our confusion, because when those energies don't make sense, which is like more of that Mercury energy trying to make sense of these things, then they get really distorted on their way through. And that distortion is how the control energies were able to pull off so much persecution in the age of Pisces. And so the sun in square to Neptune right now is saying that we are indeed looking at an adjustment, a change, a shift in how we see ourselves according to this spiritual energy. So it's kind of a powerful message that there's so many people going through so much right now. And of course, we've got this intense astrology, we've got the holidays, and it's like everything is coming up, right? Everything from that deep dive that was kind of just an uncomfortable feeling, but now it's like it's even more uncomfortable when it comes to the surface. And but it's all about readjusting ourselves to who we think we are in relationship to the bigger, wider truth of the one and the collective. And that's been a really intense energy for a lot of these souls that follow this work, because you're sensitive. You're a sensitive soul, and you feel the collective energies, and you might feel it and not even realize that's what you're feeling. Often you can have like a karmic contract with a whole group of souls that you feel kind of responsible for. And so whatever they're going through, you're trying to process and help them in your field and not even realizing you're doing it. That's just part of being a sensitive soul. And this Sun square Neptune is kind of bringing this feeling very strong, and yet asking us whether we want to identify with these old stories of trauma, or if we're ready to move into this new chapter and reorienting ourselves, right? And so it really has to do with everything that's happening in our life, putting us closer into connection with that bigger, wider spiritual truth, especially exactly what kind of the light shining through with that galactic center activation. So we're looking at reorienting our relationship to the spiritual. And what does it mean in our everyday life? Does it mean we're bogged down with the heavy energies of feeling everything that's going on? Or is that loyalty contracts coming up saying that you need to decide whether you're going to go or if you're going to stay and try to drag these soul groups, your family members, these loyalty, wherever these loyalty contracts are you going to try to drag them with you into the higher vibrational frequencies and into this new paradigm? It won't work because we're in a free will universe, and everybody at this choice, at this point in this conscious ascension process, has to decide that they want to go. And so a lot of the heavy energy people are feeling right now is those loyalty contracts, solar energy, but also just being so sensitive to what's going on. The deal is that there's so much happening behind the scenes, and those of us who are sensitive feel it all, but we can't make sense of it, And so we are reorienting ourselves within around our identity with the collective energy and our spiritual connection. So those darker, heavier, shadowy energies that you've been trying to resolve that aren't yours to resolve, that is not the true connection. What we're trying to do is replace that with this direct connection to source. So much of the religious persecution that happened, say in the Dark Ages, the medieval times, had to do with the control energies of the church or different factions of that formed, like first Catholicism and the pagans, and then the Catholicism and the Protestants and the Catholics. And so those stories just played out again and again. And look at the division that we have in our world right now. It's like replaying these old stories, and it's like, I'm more holier than you because, I pay my taxes and to the church and, whatever. And you're bad, you're a heretic because, you believe in a direct connection to source. So much of that persecution was based on this distortion of whether or not we need to have an outside source connect us to our spiritual truth. And of course, we know this isn't true. And yet these old paradigms and programs and control energies run in our field: societal conditioning, family conditioning, past life experiences. And it's so much about what this 2020 is about, astrology, because it's about reassessing our authoritarian structures. And so we're looking at where we've given our power away, where we said yes, to our teachers, to these control energies, to any power outside of ourselves. He said, okay, you take my power and I'll beg for it back at some point. And here we are. We're in the begging for it back part, except for that it's our right. It's ours. It's time to take it back. But there's all this fear program around it. But anyway, that's getting into a little bit too much for today. But just this is the energy that's coming up. It's like we're turning the face of our sun and who we think we are towards that old stories that are still affecting us, even though we don't really buy into that programming, and then looking towards the future. Is it really okay for us to be free? Is it really okay for us to have autonomy over our energy, over our light, over our connection to the greater whole, and kind of permission to make our world what we want it to be, to dream a new dream? So on that note, let's go ahead and get into this. And so just feeling yourself arrive right here, right now in present time. We are in a massive shift of ages, and it's uncomfortable. It's uncertain. It's weird. And yet in between this big past and then big future, here we are, right here. So let's just claim this now moment. Sinking into the earth. Just taking a few deep breaths and with an exhale, putting down a root system deep into the earth. Sinking in, feeling yourself arrive. Mother Earth coming up to meet you with gravity. As the whole lower part of your body just relaxes and releases into this now moment, leaving all of the stories, the worries, the cares, the feelings the anxieties, the fears. That'll be there later if you want to pick them back up. But for right now, we're going to just leave that all aside. Creating your own sacred space right here, right now, right in the middle of the past and the future, right in this now moment. Moving into still point, the one point in all manifested reality that's outside of duality consciousness, the place you were whole and complete just before you came into your incarnation, your conception in this body, in this lifetime. And go ahead and just visit this wholeness, a spark of light, and stepping into that spark of light. This moment when you were whole and complete, one cell. And just stepping into that oneness, imagining that this is like an embryonic shield, a buffer for the intense energies of this world right now. And that you can move through life from this place of oneness. And still point, just coming in, moving into that spark of light. The truth of you, whole and complete, right here, right now, and forever, before, and into eternity. In the present moment, we access the only time we really have. And we also access all time. Just taking a few deep breaths, moving into that spark of light, feeling your whole aura filled with light and protection, like an embryo, holding you through this transition, protecting you and loving you, connected into Mother Earth for the journey ahead. Recognizing from this place of deep presence, still point, the 0 point, the bigger sway of events and energies in the process look very different. Just anchoring in to this now moment, allowing yourself to be here in this time, outside of time, the eternal now. And just resting now with this memory of your wholeness and completeness and your embryonic sheath. The light of consciousness, how you got here and how you will go to the next phase. Holding you, protecting you, supporting you as you move through these coming weeks and days and months. From this place of presence. Just taking a few deep breaths, feeling this light body expand and contract around you with your breath. With each breath growing brighter and stronger, lighter and freer. And go ahead and see, sense, feel the other lights out there. also going through this intense process. You are not alone. Although in this now moment, you are autonomous and held, safe and secure. And just imagine with each breath, that light becomes more pure, more true, more present. Remembering back to just before you came into this incarnation and your excitement to be here on the planet. And presence. Just remembering that you are whole and complete. And bringing this presence into your daily life as much as possible, and remembering it's here for when you have a few moments to revisit this powerful field of presence and peace that we're building. And just taking a few deep breaths, enjoying this peace, this still point for as long as you would like. And when you're ready, go ahead and complete your meditation. Thank you so much for joining me for day 6 of 21 Days of Presence. Wow, it's an intense time, huh? I'm glad we're here together. Let me know in the comments how this time is going for you, and let's keep in touch. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on day 7, 21 Days of Presence. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.